The first thing we want to do is we want to set up our SD card with Hakate and Atmosphere. So to do that, we need to go to sdsetup.com as we do now. We'll just wait for this to load. So yeah, we select the console, Nintendo Switch, and we're pretty good to go with the predefined bundles. We'll configure this just a little bit. So we'll select that recommended defaults. We'll make sure that Atmosphere and Hakate are checked. And we'll go down, and we don't need most of this. Most of this is for custom firmware and other stuff. We're not really messing around with that, so we can untick most of this. So we don't need Tesla, I don't think, but we can leave it. Yeah, so let's just look at what we've got here. We don't need the Homebrew App Store. We don't need the menu. We don't need Edison Gold Leaf or any of that. So we'll just untick all these. Don't need any of it. We don't need this lockpick because I think this is just an app. So we'll get rid of that. And we do want the payloads. We do want lockpick RCM. We'll grab BISKey dump and Antigua RCM GUI because that's all we really need here. And that'll do. So then you just hit download zip and it'll build your zip file. And there you go, it'll prompt you to download it, and then you just want to save it somewhere. I'm putting it in this empty directory here called unbrick switch. So there we go. So then we'll minimize this window, and the next thing we'll do is we'll open that directory. And as you can see, we've got a zip, so we'll extract that zip using 7-zip. You can use anything you like, though. It doesn't have to be 7-zip. And you can see we've got this PC directory with Tegra RCM GUI. We do need that. We're going to be using it extensively. So we're going to paste this just into the root directory just for easier access. And while we're at it, we'll just have a look at what payloads we've got. So we've got lockpick RCM, which we need. We've got the others, hakate, we need as well. And that's it. So that's good. So we can see here are the SD files, and we're going to have to copy those to the USB drive. So we've got to format this USB drive to FAT32. So I'm using the tool Rufus to do this. It's probably the easiest way, and we just leave all these settings as default, and that should be all good. Yeah, that'll do us as it is. So next thing we want to do is hit start, and that will format this card. So we just hit OK. And boom, there we go. Okay, so now we have a nice blank SD card to put Hakate and Atmosphere on. So I'm just going to bin off these two files that we don't need. They're what Rufus put there. They're completely unneeded. We'll close out of Rufus now. So now we have the freshly formatted card. We want to copy the SD contents from the unbrick switch directory and pop that onto the SD card on the root like this. So we just copy paste them like that. And that's it. Now our SD card is prepared and Hakate is ready to go and boot on the switch. So we can come out of that and we'll just verify that that we have the payloads we need as well, which we can check in here. So we've got the various payloads we selected, and that all looks good. And yeah, I think we're good to go on this as well now. So now we'll eject that, and now we just need to boot that SD card on the switch. So you flip it over and get your SD card ready and just open up the kickstand just so that you can pop the SD card in. And we'll just get that open like that and pop the SD card in and then close the close it like so. And then what you need is a little RCM jig like this. You can also do it with a Joy-Con with a piece of tinfoil wedged into it. Look up other videos if you want to know how to do that if you don't have a jig. And now you hold the volume up button and then you just tap the power button, and that will put the machine into recovery mode, RCM mode. And so although we don't have any backlight, that should be detected in Tegra RCM GUI as being in recovery mode. So we'll go to Tegra RCM GUI now, fire that up, and you see how we have this green RCM OK? That means that we are now ready to inject a payload. So we'll browse payloads and we'll go to the unbrick switch directory again, and we'll go into the SD setup directory and payloads, and we'll select the Hakate payload. There we go. Nearly selected the wrong one. We'll inject that. And we can just choose whatever date we like here. It doesn't really matter. And there we go. That's that. That's configured. And now what we can do is we can do a backup. So we want to back up the boot 0 and boot 1. And we'll just let that do its thing. It won't take very long at all. It'll dump these on the in a backup directory on the root of the SD card. You need a sufficiently large SD card for a full backup. I'd recommend 64 gigabytes or greater on your memory card. You'll need a minimum of 32. And now what we want to do is tap this emmc raw GPP. And this one will take quite some time because it's got to back up 30 gigabytes of data. And it's got to do it at the speed that your SD card can operate, which is probably not brilliant. They never are. So yeah, we'll just let that do its thing. And as you can see, this is going to take quite a while. So yeah, 0%. So what we're going to do is fast forward through this. There's absolutely no point in you guys suffering through the whole thing. So we'll now skip to the end through the magic of video editing. And there we go. We've now backed that up and it says finished and verified, which is great. So what we want to do now is get that copied over to the PC. There's a couple of ways you can do this. I'm just going to pop the SD card into a SD card reader. So yeah, we'll just get that card out. And I'm going to pop this into the reader now off camera. And we can just leave that message on there. It doesn't matter. Just leave that nix or reload thing on there. And pop the SD card reader in the PC. And there we go. So now we just want to copy that over. So we'll go to the SD card and we'll go into the backup directory. And you can see here we've got the dump. So we'll just copy the whole directory, the backup directory. And we'll just paste that into the unbrick switch directory like this. And that will allow us to copy over the full backup. This will also take some time, so expect to wait a while. So there we go. That's pretty much copied now. That took a while. I'm glad I didn't have to subject you guys to that amount of time. There we go. And that's it. So now we have the backup. So now we don't really have to worry about doing too much damage to the NAND memory. If we do, we can always restore the backup. So happy days right there. So now we have a copy of that backup. We can pop the SD card back into the switch. So we'll go ahead and do that now. Same procedure as before, just pop that kickstand open and then pop the SD card right back into the reader. So there we go. Happy days. And then we'll flip it back over and there we go. As you can see, Hakate's reloaded and we're looking good. So next thing we want to do is we want to check our fuse count, I believe. So we need to go to console info, HWN fuses, and there we go. We can see on this one we've got 14 blown fuses, and if you look, Hakate is telling us that that suggests that it's on HOS, which is short for Horizon OS, version 11.0.0 plus. So if I just zoom in on this, I can show you what I'm sort of pointing to here. I'm pointing to the version 14. We are going to confirm that that's the correct number, the correct firmware for the number of blown fuses. So 14. And it suggests that this is version 11. And we're going to look that up anyway on a table online just to confirm. So we'll go ahead and we'll do that now. So what we want to do is we just want to search, we want to search for Nintendo Switch fuse blown count, and there's a few GitHub links for this, but we can see we've got a table here, and that's suggesting version 13 blown fuses, sorry, for version 10. So it stands to reason that version 11 would be 14, just as Hakate was suggesting to us, so that's great. So the next thing we need is to get a version 11 firmware. This is what we're going to use to replace the corrupt firmware that's already on the NAND. So we'll go ahead and download that. and just download it from one of the available mirrors at the time that you need to get the firmware. So just go ahead and let that download. When we're downloaded, we're going to need to verify that this download is not corrupt in any way, and we can do that using an MD5 hash check, which is just a nice way of making sure that it matches what the download page says, and it provides us those MD5 hashes, which is all fun times. So there we go. So we'll save that, and we'll pop that in the unbrick switch directory once again, and we'll just save it there for now. And there we go. So next thing we want to do is open PowerShell. So I'm just going to close that one that was already open and open PowerShell from scratch. So there we go. There's PowerShell. So we need to change into the directory where we just downloaded that firmware. For me, that is on my desktop, and it's sitting in the unbrick switch directory. So there we go. We've changed into that directory. I'll clear the output. And there we go. We can see that that's there, firmware 11.0.1. So that's good. And next thing we need is emmc hackgen. This allows us to generate the clean firmware using the using prod keys and so on that we need to dump. So we'll just grab that real quick, and we'll save that into the unbrick switch directory as well, like so. There we go. We'll just extract that. We're most of the way there. So now we'll verify that that firmware is correct, which is what I was going to do a second ago. I got a little sidetracked. So we'll go ahead and we'll just check what the MD5 command is in PowerShell. And like any good developer, I go straight to Stack Overflow and scroll down a bit. And as we can see here, there's a command called get file hash, which is perfect. That's exactly what we need. So we want to do get file hash. And we need to tell it the algorithm, the hash algorithm to use, which in this case is MD5. And then we need to tell it the file name. So we'll type firmware, and if you press tab, it'll auto-complete that. And there we go. We now have the hash. So I'll Control-C that to copy it to the clipboard. And then we'll search the firmware page we downloaded it from just to make sure that matches up. And as we can see, that's a perfect match. So we know that firmware is not corrupt. So there we go. We can now just move that firmware into the emmc hackgen directory and unzip it in there. And we'll rename that directory to FW, which just makes it a little easier when we execute our terminal command next. And then we can get rid of that zip file we just downloaded because we've now extracted it and don't need the compressed version anymore. And then what we need to do is verify a few things along the way. So first of all, we need to get back into RCM mode, I believe. So we can hit reboot in RCM, and there we go. And we're now in RCM mode, and we'll flip back, and we want to inject a new payload. We want to inject lockpick RCM, so we'll hit open. There we go. And then we'll hit inject, and this will inject the code that allows us to dump our prod keys. So we'll want to dump that from sysnand. So just go ahead and select that with the power button, and it'll dump that to the SD card. So it'll go ahead and do that and tell you. And we can see here it's saying that it's dumped a number of keys. And then what we want to do is reboot back to RCM mode. And there we go. So now what we want to do is something that I don't remember. Go to payloads. We've already done lockpick. We want the BIS keys. Let's inject the hakate for now, I think. Yeah. Yeah, we just want to grab those prod keys for now. So go to Tools, go to USB Tools and SD card, and that will just allow us to access our switch's memory without actually having to switch out the SD card. So we'll go ahead and go to the switch directory, and as we can see, we've got prod keys in here. Great, that's exactly what we need. So we'll grab prod keys, copy it, and we will then move that. I'm just checking around, actually. Yeah, okay. I was just checking to see if I'd dumped anything else. I haven't. I'm just sort of goofing around and making mistakes now. So just bear with me. Okay, so we're definitely copying prod keys. We're putting that into the hackgen directory, pasting it in. There we go. So the next thing we want to do is open a command prompt. So we open the command prompt, and we want to invoke the emmc hackgen tool. So you can just type emmm or mm and just hit tab and it'll autocomplete. And then we'll take that back and just change it to .exe. And then I'm going to go to the tools web page and I'm going to look at what arguments this tool can take. So we'll go ahead and scroll down. We can see we've got a keys argument, which is to the prod keys file. We've got the firmware argument, and we don't want auto RCM on this because we're just trying to completely build a brand new vanilla firmware. So first of all, let's give it the keys argument. We'll give it the prod.keys file we just dumped. We'll also give it the firmware directory for the firmware that we've extracted, which is there, and it will use this to generate the new firmware using the prod keys as the basis. And we'll tell it that we want no auto RCM as well. There we go. So now we just hit enter a couple of times because for some reason it just doesn't want to accept it. So we'll try again. And there we go, it's fired up. And now, of course, my antivirus is whinging about a suspicious file. It doesn't know what a suspicious file is, so we'll just close that. And I'm going to run it again just in case the antivirus interfered with it. And we'll just overwrite that. And there we go, that's fine. So that's generated. So you can see now we've got this new NX directory. This is the newly built firmware. This is what we'll be writing to the switch's memory. So now we just need to grab Boolean etcher, and that will allow us to write that to the switch, the boot 0 and the boot 1 partitions. So we'll just grab that and save it. We'll put that in these in this unbrick switch directory. Download that and get it installed. So we'll just go ahead and install that. You know how it is. Definitely read the terms and conditions. And then that should automatically load, and we can see that there, that's automatically loaded. So what we want to do here is select the boot 0 image that hackgen's generated. So we'll go back into that NX directory and we'll select boot 0. And we'll hit open, and it will complain about missing partitions. That's fine. And there we go. So we've now selected that. And the next thing we need is we need the memloader tool. And this allows us to mount those partitions and access them from the Windows computer connected to the switch. So we'll go ahead and do that. And if we extract that into the unbrick switch directory, there we go. And what we want to do here is open the memloader directory that we've extracted. And I'm just going to clean up these files we don't need anymore while I'm at it. And we'll go ahead and open up memloader. And as you can see, we've got this bin file and these files inside the sample directory. We want to copy these sample files and pop them on the root of our SD card. There we go. We can eject that. Yeah, you'll have to excuse me for just a moment. I'm just fiddling around. There we go. So what we want to do now is pop our SD card back in. And then we're going to boot into RCM mode once again by holding down the volume up button and pressing the power on. And if we go back to Tegra RCM GUI, we can see that that's loaded up. So now we need to select the memloader payload. So we go back in and we can see we've got this bin file. So we'll select that and we'll hit inject payload like we have for the others. So we'll go ahead and inject that and it will smash the stack good and proper. And there we go. Now the stack has been smashed, like the like button on this video should be. And then what you want to do is scroll up to where it says umsboot0.ini. So go ahead and select that option. Like so, and there we go. I'm a poet and I didn't even know it. I think I'm going a bit crazy. But yeah, so that will now allow us to select that as a drive in Balena Etcher. So that's the boot 0 drive with the boot 0 bin file, and we'll flash that now. And we'll repeat the exact same process for the boot 1 partition as well. So we'll flash another, and we'll now select the boot 1 bin file that was generated by HackGen. And once again, we will switch over to the good old-fashioned RCM mode. So you've got to just hold down the power button until it switches off. So hold it for a few seconds and just make sure that it's definitely powered down. And then we'll boot back into recovery mode by holding volume up and tapping the power button again. Like so. And that will once again be in RCM recovery mode. So then we'll flip back over to the computer and we'll inject that payload again. But this time we'll select the boot 1 UMS.ini file. Just get that into focus. There we go. So it's the second from the top. So we'll scroll up to that now. Select that. And bam. Excellent. Okay. So once again, we'll go to the computer. Do not format the disk, by the way, if you do get that prompt. Always select do not format. And then we'll select that Linux drive. And boom. This time we're now flashing boot 1 to the boot 1 drive that we've mounted through memloader. And that's it done. We can now close out of Balena. We won't be needing that anymore. And once again, we need to inject this. So we need to put the switch back into recovery mode again. So same steps again. Just hold down the power button until it switches off. Press and hold the volume up button, and then press the power button once again. And that will put it back into RCM mode once again. I'm wondering how many times I can say RCM in one video. But there we go. So we'll inject it again. And this time what we want to do is mount it as the emmc option. UMS emmc. So just try to get that into view. There we go. And it's the second from the bottom option. USB emmc. So we'll hit that. There we go. We'll put the switch back and we'll flip back over to the PC once again. And this time we will be using hack disk mount to mount that. So we do need to download that. And the interesting thing is, I can't remember what that's called at the moment. Now, I've just said the name, but I couldn't remember at the time of recording this, so we'll scroll down, and then there we see it, hat disk mount. Seeing it reminded me of what it was, so we need to grab hat disk mount. Just get the latest version. and hit OK. Just save that into your unbrick switch directory, or whatever you've called your own directory, doesn't really matter. Just extract that file as well. And there we go. We now have the utility that allows us to access the switch's internal memory. So we'll run this as administrator, which allows it privileges to access drives on the operating system. And then as you can see, we've got this 32 gig volume. So we'll open that up, well, 29 gig volume. And there we go. We can now see the various partitions. We've got prod info and the others as well. As you can see, this has actually been pre-populated with the keys. I need to re-enter those keys. They are correct because I've done this procedure once before on this particular switch, but I'm going to clear them out anyway and just show you guys what you need to do. So we do need those BIS keys to be able to do that. And as we can see, I have already dumped the BIS keys. They're right there. I kind of accidentally missed that in this tutorial, but you can quite easily dump those BIS keys by going into Tegra RCM GUI with your switch in recovery mode, go into the Tools tab and selecting the Dump BIS keys option, and then it will prompt you to save that text file somewhere. And this then contains all of the keys you need to decrypt the file system on the switch. So just go ahead and pop them in and hit the test button and then the save button. And then you can close out and repeat for prod info F. It's exactly the same key. So yeah, you can just go ahead and close that. These prod info partitions are unique to your switch. No other switch has an identical prod info area. These partitions do not have encryption. They're unencrypted. So we need to go to the NX directory and we need to select the file name that matches the partition. So we'll go ahead and select this BC package 2 one, normal main. We'll do the same for normal sub. So again, we just we test that no key works. And then we go down to that and hit start, and that will flash it. And again, we just rinse and repeat for each one. So there we go. Same for the safe mode sub as well. Start. And there we go. That will give us nice, clean partitions for that. And then the other 3 partitions, these do require encryption. These are the safe, system, and user partitions. And as we can see, those match these BIS keys here. And if you look, it says BIS key 1 there. So you just paste BIS key 1's crypt there and the tweak into the tweak section. So the upper and the lower, and then we test it and save it. What we want to do now is pass through zeros, and we want to mount this as a drive. So you can see I've selected the G drive and I've hit mount. And this takes just a short amount of time, but there we go. So we've now got that mounted, and we can see that in the Windows file system. So what we'll now do is open the G drive, which is the Nintendo Switch's safe partition. And as we can see, that is empty. There's nothing in it. So what we'll do is we'll just quickly check the unbrick switch directory. And we'll go to the generated thing. We'll go to safe directory in the NX firmware. And we can see that's empty as well. So there's nothing there to copy. So that's fine. So we can go back. And now we'll do the same for system. So we'll unmount that. And then we'll close out of the window once that's successfully unmounted. And we'll go to system. And we'll double check the keys. So we'll copy BIS key 2 for the crypto and for the upper and the lower, the tweak. So go ahead, pass through zeros, select G again. Doesn't matter what drive letter you use, just don't use A because Windows will assume it's a floppy drive. So we'll go ahead and we'll copy from our NX built firmware directory these system files, and we'll delete the existing system files on the switch's system partition like this. This could take a little while, there's quite a few files. Just go ahead and delete those, and just hit yes for that as well. And then we'll paste these over, and that will give us a pure, clean, fresh install base of Horizon OS. So again, we just wait on those to paste over. Shouldn't take too long, it's only a gigabyte or so. Kind of stalling out a bit, but you know, gotta wait. I could have edited this, but whatever. Got diamond hands, bro. Gotta hold on. And if you get the reference, points to you. And or stonks. Anyway, I got stonks on the brain, so there we go. So now we have completely and freshly regenerated the system directory, system partition. So the next step will be to do the same for the user directory. So we'll flip back over to hack disk mount, and we'll unmount that now. We'll unmount the system partition, and then we'll close that, and we'll do the same now for the user partition. Now you'll notice that the BIS key 2 and 3 are identical. They are the same key, so we'll still paste it in. And we'll do the same for the lower portion for the tweak as well. And then we'll hit test. Great stuff. And then we'll want to pass through zeros again, and we'll just select our drive letter again, and we'll mount that. So now we go to our unbrick switch directory, we go to the NX directory, and now we'll copy the user files from the generated firmware we created, and we're going to copy those over to that drive as well. I was just double checking that, 'cause the G drive isn't showing up now. So let's just navigate to this PC. Oh, there we go, I can see it now. So we'll go on there, and we'll just clear this out. And now we'll hit paste, and there we go. And that's it. We can unmount that, and that is the firmware completely rebuilt and flashed onto the switch. That will unbrick a switch, and that will leave the file system completely pure without any kind of pollution from any kind of previous hacking attempts or anything stupid like that, or even just a botched update. So there we go. That's it. We can now close out of hack disk mount, and you have now rebuilt the NAND memory on your Nintendo Switch. Congratulations. So let's do a test. Let's pop off this RCM jig. Let's power it up. So we'll just power it off first to get it out of RCM mode. So just hold the power button for a little while, and then we'll tap it again, and we'll see if it starts up. And there we go. We got the Nintendo logo. There we go, Nintendo Switch. And it's going through its normal boot up cycle. And that is a completely repaired NAND memory module, and this is in a factory condition. So we'll just attach some Joy-Cons. And happy days. Bingo. That's precisely what we want to see. So now we have a fully operational Nintendo Switch that was originally bricked. I purchased this off eBay as black screen, no power. It was actually taking power just fine. It was actually the memory module that was botched. Somebody probably hacked it and corrupted the internal memory. But there we go. We now have a fully functional Switch once again, and that's absolutely fantastic. So now I can pop these Joy-Cons off as it's telling me to, and like just go through the process. And that's it. Now I can hold this switch with my diamond hands. Hold it. Hold it long. This is not financial advice. But there we go. Yeah, and it allows us to set it all up and everything else. And this is not running a custom firmware. This is entirely vanilla. And as you can see, the system booted up just fine without recovery mode, without requiring any kind of crazy bootloaders or anything. This is now entirely vanilla. So there we go. Excellent. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you get to repair multiple switches with this. And we'll power this off. And as you can see, I'm pretty happy with this result. So, yeah. It's been good having you, and as always, bye for now.